All right. Okay. So this is section 3 on the guide to BOI reporting about beneficial owners. Okay. Now, when we do all of our reviews about beneficial ownership and BOI, as it relates to BOI reporting, this is the area that people make the most amount of mistakes. The term beneficial owner is actually the name itself is very misleading, because beneficial owners, as you will soon see, can be lots of different people within a company, not just people who have an equity stake or ownership within the company. Okay, so let's get started. So what is a beneficial owner? Okay, a beneficial owner is anybody that has who basically is any individual. Okay, that's important. Okay, a beneficial owner cannot be a non-individual. It can't be another company. We'll get into some of that in later. But it's anybody that either exercises substantial control over a reporting company or owns or controls at least 25% of the ownership interest in a reporting company. So let's first talk about what substantial control means, and then we'll get into the ownership piece. So what is substantial control? Okay, so there's basically 4 different criteria. It's either a senior officer, someone who has the ability or the control to appoint or remove any of those senior officers, an important decision maker, or there's a catch-all clause in there as well. Okay, so what is a senior officer within a company? Okay, it's anybody that either has the title of president, chief financial officer, general counsel, chief executive officer, chief operating officer, or any other office, regardless of official title, who performs a similar function as these officers. So maybe at your company, you may have somebody who doesn't have the title of a CFO, but has all the power and the abilities and all of the things that a CFO normally has. And we'll get into kind of what that looks like later. But just because so if anybody has one of these titles, irregardless of their equity in a company, they have to be included on the BOI report. Okay, if their roles and responsibilities are similar to what these people generally do, okay, then they also, irregardless of what their official title is, they need to be included on the BOI report. Okay, if there is an individual, that with the ability to appoint or remove any senior officer, or can appoint or remove a majority of the board of directors or a similar body, that person also needs to be included on a BOI report. Okay. Let's talk about what an important decision maker means. Any individual who directs, determines, or has substantial influence over important decisions made by the reporting company, okay, such as including the reporting company's business, okay, so nature, scope, attributes of the business, selection or termination of business line or ventures. Okay, so these are going to be people that generally a CEO or a president are going to basically have these powers and abilities. Finances, such as sale, lease, mortgage, or transfer of principal assets, major expenditure or investments, compensation schemes. Okay, this is where your CFO is going to basically, or if there's anybody that in your organization, even if they don't have the title of CFO, if they can do these things, okay, then they need to be included. Or they have substantial control over the structure, reorganization, dissolution, merger, amendments of any substantial governance documents. Okay, so a lot of this is like your general counsel, maybe even a chief operating officer, those kind of things. So if there's anybody, irregardless of their title, if they have these abilities, powers to do anything like this, they have substantial control as an important decision maker. And then there is this catch-all. Any other form of substantial control over the reporting company Control exercise in new and unique ways can still be substantial. For example, flexible corporate structures may have different indicators of control than the indicators included here, okay? So basically what this means is that the federal government says, okay, anybody that's a senior officer, anybody that has the power to appoint or remove a senior officer, or anybody that is an important decision maker, all those people need to be included. And then it basically, there's this catch-all, meaning if there's anybody else that has substantial control over the company, okay, even if it doesn't fall in line with exactly those three other criteria, they need to be included, okay? So this is a little bit of a gray area here, and I think that what we do as a company is if we ever have any questions, we're like, does this person have substantial control over the reporting company? We will always err on the side of adding those people, okay? And so sometimes we come across situations that don't exactly fit in the box. There's not a one-size-fits-all criteria. So we will always add people if we're unsure. Now, this one right here is ownership interest. If there is anybody, okay, that owns or controls at least 25% of the ownership interest in the company through equity, stock, or voting rights, capital or profit interest, convertible instruments. This is basically debt that include that in a future date can transform into equity, options or privileges, or any other instrument, contract, or mechanism used to establish ownership. Those are ownership interests. So anybody that basically owns 25% or more of the company or controls 25% or more of the company through their ownership interests, okay, through these classifications, okay, also have to be included. As you can see here, catch-all, basically if somebody owns or has a controlling interest over the ownership, 25% or more of ownership interest in the company, and it doesn't exactly fit within one of these criteria, there's this catch-all that basically says any other kind of instrument, contract, arrangement, understanding, relationship, or any other thing to establish ownership falls in there. Those people also need to be included, okay? Most 99% of reporting companies, the ownership interest is going to fall under equity, stock, okay? These other ones are a little bit more rare, okay? But they absolutely exist. And so, but most people, it's going to be, do you own 25% or more of your LLC or your corporation or whatever, okay? Some organizations that are reporting companies don't have ownership interests, right? There's certain unincorporated associations. We'll get into those later, but where there's no ownership. So you're looking at significant control, okay? So the thing to remember is that, let me go back to this one right here, okay? It is either or, okay? So anybody, irregardless of whether they have any equity or they meet the 25%, if they have substantial control, they have to be included. Or if they own or control at least 25% of the ownership interest over a reporting company, okay? They also, irregardless of whether or not they have substantial control, if you own at least 25% of the company, that individual has to be included on the BOI report. Okay, there are certain exemptions to beneficial ownership, okay? If someone is a minor child, less than 18 years old, if a minor child has an ownership interest in a company or a reporting company, they do not need to be included. A nominee, intermediary, custodian, or agent. This is like somebody's accountant. Okay, this is somebody that isn't necessarily. It's just basically nominated to basically help with the company, things like that. Somebody's accountant, somebody's attorney, something like that. They would not have. They would be exempt from beneficial ownership. If someone's an employee, right? If they don't have substantial control, if they don't have If they don't have any ownership interest, okay, they don't need to be included. If somebody is set to inherit, okay, at a future date, ownership interest in a company, they are not considered a beneficial owner at this time. And then if anybody's a creditor, meaning someone who has lent money to the reporting company, do not need to be included as a beneficial owner. Okay, now once we've established who are the beneficial owners, okay, there is some information that we have to collect for each beneficial owner. What is their full legal name? Okay, first, middle, last. What's their date of birth? What is their complete residential current address? So this is the individual's residential street address. Okay, no PO boxes. Okay. Also, this address is not required to be in the United States. So if you have whether it's a domestic or a foreign reporting company, if there's a beneficial owner that lives outside of the United States, that's fine. Okay. Unique identifying number and issuing jurisdiction from an image of one of the following non-expired documents. Basically, you have to report the government ID on a beneficial owner. Okay, that could be a U.S. passport, state driver's license, or a state identification document issued by a state, a local government, or tribe. Okay, and a foreign passport if none of these three are available. Okay, so you have to include on the FinCEN filing form the ID number, the expiration date, okay, and also a copy of that government issued ID, whether it's a U.S. passport, state driver's license, or a state identification document, or a foreign passport. Or you can report your FinCEN identifier, okay? Basically what this is I'm gonna go to the next screen. A FinCEN identifier is basically a unique identifying number from FinCEN, okay, that will be issued to either an individual or a reporting company, okay, upon request, okay. Basically what that is you can use your FinCEN identification number in place of those identifying information. So basically what you can do is you can submit your full name, your date of birth, all your government ID information, okay? And you can get a FinCEN identification and your residential address. You can get a FinCEN identification number so that in the future, like if you have several different companies, that you need to register, instead of putting in that information for every single one, you can get a FinCEN identification number and then just input that, your identifier, as opposed to putting in your personal information for every single on every single BOI report. Okay. Either way, the federal government's going to have it. Okay, but you can use your FinCEN identifier in place of your ID information. Okay, on the BOI report. Okay, let's get into Bob's Plumbing Service. Okay, so we know that Bob started the company. He's the chief executive officer. So let's talk about the information that needs to be collected and reported for Bob. Okay, his actual legal name is Robert Joseph King. Here's his date of birth. Here's his address. Okay, he's got a Texas driver's license. Here's the number, expiration date, all that stuff. Does he have significant control? Yes, his title is a chief executive officer. Okay, does he have significant ownership? Yes, he owns 60% of the company. So even if one of these were no, he would still need to be reported, included, because he is a senior officer and owns 25% or more of the company. If you remember, Bob brought on a partner. His name is Mark Aaron Smith, is his full name. Here's his date of birth, address. He also is including his driver's license. Does he have significant control? Yes. His title is Chief Operating Officer. And does he have significant ownership? Yes, he does. He owns 30% of the company. Okay. Now, Bob and Mark, okay, they also hired a CFO. Okay, that CFO is employed by Bob's Plumbing Service. And his name is Gerald. He goes by Jerry. This is Jerry right here. Okay, not in the plumbing outfit, but his full name is Gerald James Johnson. Here's his date of birth. Here's his residential address, his identifying information. Does he have significant control? Yes, he is the chief. He is the CFO of the company. Does he have significant ownership? No, he doesn't. Okay, he owns 10% of the company. Okay, so even though Jerry doesn't own 25% or more of the company, he is the CFO. Okay, and because of that, he will need to be included. Okay, along with Mark and along with Bob. Okay, so that's it. So these are the three people that are for Bob's Plumbing Service that are going to be included as beneficial owners on that BOI report. Okay, and that is it. There's some other kind of unique situations with trusts, with reporting companies that are owned by other companies. Again, a beneficial owner has to be an individual, can't be another company. So what do you do when a company is owned by another company? We'll get into kind of a little bit more of those unique scenarios in a future section. Okay, but for just a general overview as far as what beneficial ownership is, this is it.